Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Starrett with H-Wave. I want to show you one of my favorite tools when we have people coming for shoulder pain. Nondescript shoulder pain, we've got shoulder impingement, we've got frozen shoulder, we've got a hot tendinopathy. What we're always trying to do is have non-threatening input into the body, signal to the brain it's safe. One of the problems with the shoulder is that the rotator cuff and shoulder architecture is basically like hard-packed earth. And one of the things that happens is exercise comes in and we get a bunch of fire hose-like blood and movement in there when the hard-packed earth takes a second for the water to permeate, to saturate down into the layers. And so what we like to see is lots and lots of warm-up and lots of warm-up with rotation. Now, the shoulder doesn't occupy space by itself. It's not just a sole mover where I'm rigid. I need to think about what's going on with the arm and the shoulder blade, and how that relates to the body through the thoracic spine and all of the big movers. So what I'm really looking for is how do I get movement into that system? There was a model of shoulder rehab, general rehab, called PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, and they developed these patterns where we saw lots of rotation coming across the body to overhead, and then from sort of reaching behind an extension and coming across the body. So those were the big patterns where I could go up and down in these diagonals, and the idea was, hey, in this model of training, we could get a lot of motion and strength with the arm straight. Well, it turns out one of the things that we can do is introduce a simple chunk of rope. Now, this could just be an old extension cord. It could be a simple rope you got at the hardware store. It doesn't have to be fancy, even something you have lying around, an old jump rope. Roughly the height, if you stood on it, up to your armpit would be a great reference place, but don't be caught in it. But what we've discovered with something called rope flow is that we can begin to get lots of motion of the shoulder in a whole bunch of interesting ways by doing two simple patterns. The first one is this over pattern. So I'm just going forward on both sides. And even if I just went forward on one side, that would be a lot of movement and a lot of isometrics. But here I am moving across, and all I'm going to do is lead with the thumb as I go in these overhand loops. And what I'm starting to signal is that it's okay for my brain to accept what's happening in my shoulder. I can make those bigger arcs. I can add speed if I want. I can do it with the elbow bent or the elbow straight. But what I'm going to start to do is get a lot of motion and a lot of movement in the arm, in the shoulder, and in the shoulder blade. And what begins to happen is that we get this miraculous thing where the shoulder really starts to fill up with blood, and automatically I'm self-limited, because if I have a painful area, I tend not to move my shoulder much from this position. But if I do start to feel better, I can start to explore what it's like in really shallow ranges or in bigger ranges. The second pattern is a reverse pattern. So we went over the top, making these normal loops. And the second pattern is to come underneath and just do back loops. So I've got the rope in one hand, and again, I'm starting to explore what it looks like to side bend and twist and get my shoulders sort of working along with my torso. And it's just holding both chunks of rope with one hand, and if too annoying, I can choke up, I can make it easier. What I'm going to do now is start to say, hey, there's two things I can do. I can either have the elbow bent or the elbow straight. Both things are going to just have different demands on the body. But then I can go forward and backwards, and I can go one hand or two hands. So now, suddenly, if I'm doing two hands, I'm starting to bring that other shoulder along on the ride, and I start to get a lot of rotation. And what's nice about this is this allows me to do things like elbow the person behind me. So I'm just exaggerating this elbow. So now I'm getting some extension. I could go backwards and think about getting my elbow up by my face. That allows me to get my shoulder blade working. The bottom line is that you can add movement with your lower body. You can be creative. You could throw and add speed if you wanted to. And what you're going to see is that 5 or 10 minutes, 5 minutes aside, 10 minutes of some rope flow, of thousands of rotations, lots of movement, lots of speed, lots of coordination is going to help that shoulder return to its normal function. It's going to help that shoulder be self-limiting in ranges that we can control. We're going to signal to the brain that it's safe, and we're going to get a ton of blood flow and help decongest that shoulder, because it's hard to warm up the shoulder. And after exercise, sometimes we're just sitting around. And if I have pain because I'm not moving, let's get moving. Remember that your body's designed to move, and these shoulders are pretty miraculous, but we want to make sure that we're accessing these positions often. And you'll see that you can do hundreds and hundreds of reps with just a chunk of rope to address that shoulder pain.